Okay, in the face of the explicit constitutional mandate of the Attorney General under Article 88 of the Constitution as principal legal advisor to the government, it is incomprehensible and rather illogical how an assertion may be made that the Attorney General has no capacity to render legal advice to the Auditor General. Such an assertion can only be as a result of a simplistic and limited view of relevant provisions of the Constitution of Ghana. Getting very interesting, isn't it? Attorney General says that if you think that the Attorney General cannot advise the Auditor General, then your understanding of the Constitution is very, very limited. You have not even understood it. So we decided to look at it in some detail and present you with some facts so that it can help you come to the conclusion, either with us or against us. You can send your message, whichever way. All right, so now let's look at it. We're going to show you two articles, okay? Two articles of the Constitution. Now, this is not part of the Attorney General. We are adding it. Two articles of the Constitution, Article 88 and 295. And then we see whether, so the issue we are trying to resolve here is the relationship between the Auditor General and the Attorney General. Can the Attorney General render advice to the Auditor General? And if he renders advice, must the Auditor General compulsorily take that advice or not within the context of the government arrangement under the 1992 Constitution, which is the fundamental law of the land? There's no other law that is more applicable than the 1992 Constitution. In fact, the Constitution says any other law found to be inconsistent shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be null and void. So when we deal with Constitution, we don't need to look behind us and check, is there another law that says something? That has been resolved in Article 11 and in Article 2 of the Constitution. 2 says Constitution is fundamental, 11 says Constitution is number 1. So that's settled. Now, let's go to the Constitution and look at two articles and make a determination who is telling us the truth. Okay, 88. There shall be an Attorney General of Ghana who shall be a Minister of State and the principal legal advisor to the government. So we understand. Attorney General, Minister of State, he's the principal legal advisor to the government. Then the operative word then will be government. Who is government and who is not government? So we will now go to the 295, which has a definition of government. So every law, like the Constitution, has an interpretation clause. Article 295 is an interpretation clause that defines things that they have said in the Constitution. So if you are government, then your principal legal advisor is the Attorney General. Okay, so let's move to Article 295. 295 says, in this Constitution, unless the context otherwise requires, government means any authority by which the executive authority of Ghana is duly exercised. Who is government? Any authority, individual authority, who is exercising executive authority of the government. Any authority that is exercising executive. So that the work that the Auditor General does, we are now coming to put it in context in this second and determine whether the Auditor General's work is in exercise of the executive authority of government, is it in exercise of the judicial authority of government, or is it in exercise of the legislative authority of government? Government is three authorities: executive, legislature, and the judiciary. We all learned that, didn't we? So we know that. Now, the Auditor General has a role to play. People say he's not subservient to the Attorney General's advice. People say he is. The Attorney General is said by the Constitution to be the compulsory legal advisor to the government. Is the Auditor General part of the government or not? What's the definition of government? Government is anybody who is exercising the executive authority in Ghana. The authority that the Auditor General exercises, 5,000% is executive authority. It cannot be called judicial. Why? That is why when he needs to exercise judicial authority, he submits himself to the court. He files a writ against somebody because he doesn't have judicial authority in and of himself. He doesn't have it. He now has to go and cloud the judicial authority from the judiciary. In exercise of legislative authority, he doesn't have legislative powers. Therefore, he submits himself to Parliament. So what the Auditor General exercises is the executive authority. Therefore, he comes within the meaning of Article 295, that he's a member of the government. If he's a member of the government, therefore, Article 88 applies to him, that the Attorney General is his principal legal advisor. If, therefore, the Attorney General renders an advice to the Auditor General, how is that untoward in constitutional development, in building something? How is that untoward? CDD must tell us that. CDD, with all their lawyers, must explain to us why they feel this, unless they have another reason, unless they have another motive. And civil society must tell us whether they have some other motive when it comes to Auditor General, because they were dumb level, went away, and then somebody came and they said they didn't like him. As soon as he has published something and he seems to be in conflict with government, oh, they're excited about it. where is the understanding to this? The Attorney General is the principal legal advisor to the government. The Auditor General is government. He is exercising executive authority. But Attorney General cannot advise him. In fact, if we say the Attorney General cannot advise him, we will be in breach of Article 88. Because it says, there shall be an Attorney General, shall, not should. That means compulsory. There has to be an Attorney General of Ghana who is a Minister of State and the principal legal advisor to the government. The shall also works on the principal legal advisor. So he shall be your principal legal advisor. Compulsorily, you must have the Attorney General as your principal legal advisor. What is untoward about this? Why is it that when we are working about our bonds and things, all the civil society people, they like to disturb us like this? What is the problem about this matter? There's no problem here. There should be no problem. By the reading of the laws, any level 100 student who is reading the laws will clearly know that, will wonder why anybody says Attorney General cannot advise Auditor General. I don't get it. CDD, please come clean. Otherwise, we'll be asking you this question for many days to come. All right. Let's return to the Attorney General's conversation. He says, does rendering legal advice amount to interference? And then he answers the question. He says it ought to be pointed out that the functional independence of the Auditor General under 187 of the Constitution does not confer immunity from legal advice. Legal advice to a constitutional body cannot, under any circumstance, be construed to amounts to interference with the performance of its constitutional functions. A view to the contrary implies that the independent constitutional body has absolute freedom to act in any manner it desires, except when a court of law has ordered, even when its legal advice, whether public or private, is not of the opinion that this sounds an absurdity. Okay, so the Attorney General is saying that it will be absurd and is the product of unbridled sensationalism for anybody to suggest that the Auditor General is independent of the Constitution and is independent of anything. I'm not even so sure why, but I'm going to a video by Barack Obama very soon. The imputation conveyed by the third paragraph of the CDD Ghana press release that Parliament has no power to deliberate on findings contained in the Auditor General's report, and that such an effort offends the general principles of auditing. That's violence to the letter and spirit of Article 187 of the Constitution, which provides. So CDD says that even Parliament has no power to deliberate on the findings contained in the... That's also another absurdity, and it just shows a person who probably does not understand political science. That's what you will say. Parliament represents the people. The Auditor General is auditing the people's money. He has finished auditing the people's money. You say Parliament shouldn't see it. I don't even get it. I am Ghana. I'm the people. Now, the Constitution, Article 1, sovereignty resides in the people of Ghana. Sovereignty resides in the people of Ghana. So the sovereign is the people. The people have money. The taxpayers' money belongs to the people. The taxpayers' money is being deployed by the Minister of Finance through the budget to various agencies to do X, Y, Z with it. They have done what they want to do with it. Auditor General is a skilled personality within the society who has skill to do this work. He comes to check the work. You say that he shouldn't go back to the sovereign to tell him how I found that your money had been used. It's a clear misapprehension of political science. Very, very simple and very obvious. I don't get some of these things in this society. This is so basic. It's fundamental. Some people say they don't understand. Some people who have PhD, they are doctor, they've done law. They don't understand this, that level SS government understands. The sovereign has money. Money has been spent. An auditor has checked how the money was spent. He says, don't tell the sovereign. You cannot tell the sovereign. Parliament, no. See, if the Auditor General does this, well, he can't even tell Parliament. Do you understand the government system? Do you understand it? I don't get it. Well, anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. It says Parliament, so the Attorney General is quoting the law. It's quoting article, and it actually provides explicitly in the Constitution. He's quoting 187.6. He says, Parliament shall debate the report of the Auditor General and appoint, where necessary, in the public interest, a committee to deal with any matters arising from it. This is the word of the Constitution about the relationship between Auditor General's report and Parliament. And CDD says it's not important that the document goes to Parliament. I don't get it. I'm shocked. Okay, implicit in the constitutional duty of Parliament to debate the Auditor General's report and appoint a committee to deal with any matters arising from it is the duty to deliberate and probe the reports. This constitutional function of Parliament cannot be wished away by a narrow, simplistic, and erroneous reading of the Constitution by CDD Ghana or any civil society organization. I like the boldness of this Attorney General. Charlie, the guy is brutal on his law. Godfred Dame's fidelity to the law is like the Archangel Michael and Elohim. You see the relation between Archangel Michael and Elohim. Michael is completely loyal to Elohim. You know that. That's how Godfred Dame's fidelity to the law is. He's telling them in plain language. And you know, somebody will be afraid that, hey, civil society, they will come after you. He's not afraid of it because he's speaking the law. It's straightforward. What is he saying? He says that the constitutional function of Parliament cannot be wished away by a narrow, simplistic, and erroneous reading of the Constitution by CDD Ghana or any civil society organization. The Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice implore civil society organizations to carefully examine the position of Ghana law on a relevant matter before raising unjustified public alarm over a violation by the Attorney General or any public institution at all. The default in doing so affects the image of the nation in the eyes of the international community, particularly its anti-corruption ratings. The Attorney General is now advising civil society and being very hard on them that before you talk about something, understand the relevant law in Ghana. And you have many lawyers among you, they can tell you, understand the relevant law. If you don't understand the relevant law, don't come and be talking about it. Get the relevant law first. That's what he's telling them. What is this? Okay, it says it affects our system. Now, that's the end of the story. So, great.